lesson, we'll be talking about the attributes of a quadratic graph. At the end of the lesson, you should be able to identify the attributes, including the domain, the range, the intercepts, zeros, max and min, and vertex. You'll also be able to graph a quadratic by completing a table. So the difference between a quadratic and a linear, when a quadratic is graphed, its shape is a parabola, so it's not a line. The standard form of a quadratic is y equals ax squared plus bx plus c. Standard form of a line is ax plus by equals c. If the coefficient of a is positive, so that means that the curve goes upward. So that's why I kind of keep it as a smiley face. If the coefficient of a is negative, it means that the curve is opening downward like a sad face. So the parts of the graph, the bottom point, if it's going upward, is called the minimum, so it's the lowest point. If the curve is going downward, then the highest point is called the maximum. The max or the min point on the parabola is also called the vertex, so that's what helps us determine the range. And then the line of the fold is called the axis of symmetry, and so a parabola is always symmetrical. Our axis of symmetry is written as an equation x equals whatever that x value is. So our domain and range, the domain is all of our values, our possible values for the independent variable, which is x. Our range is all possible values for our dependent variable, which is y. We write it as an inequality, so y is greater than -4, meaning that the parabola is opening upward and our lowest point is -4 on the y-axis. We can also write it in interval notation, which means the parentheses negative infinity, comma 4, which means that it starts at negative infinity, but it goes the highest is 4. So if I have this graph, I want to find the domain, range, vertex, axis, zeros, so forth. So the domain is all real numbers, because if we look at this parabola, it's going upward to infinity. At some point, it will cover all of the x values. The range is from 0 to positive infinity, so when y is greater than or equal to 0. Our vertex is that point where it could fold in half. And then our axis of symmetry is the x value where it folds in half. Our zeros is the point where the parabola crosses the x. So in this case, we only have 1, so it is 0. The x-intercepts are exactly like the zeros, except we write those as an ordered pair. The y-intercept is where the parabola crosses the y, and since this is a happy face, our vertex is the minimum at 0, 0. In this one, our parabola is kind of moved up, so our domain is still all real numbers, because it's still going to go on for infinity. Our range includes 4, but goes to positive infinity, so it's y is greater than or equal to 4. Our vertex is 0, 4. Our axis of symmetry is where our vertex hits the x-axis, so x equals 0. Our zeros is where they hit where the parabola crosses the x-axis, and that is none. We also have 0, none for x-intercepts. Our y-intercept, written as an ordered pair, is 0, 4. And again, since it's a happy face, it's a min at 0, 4. This third one, our parabola is turned upside down, but our domain is still all real numbers. Our range now goes from negative infinity to 9. So it goes as far as 9, but then everything lower than that. So written as an inequality, it's y is less than or equal to 9. The vertex is that high point there of -1, 9. Our axis of symmetry is the fold where it hits the x, so x equals -1. The zeros are where the parabola crosses the x-axis, so it's -4 and 2. Our x-intercepts, written as ordered pairs, are the same as the zeros, so -4, 0, and 2, 0. Our y-intercept, where the parabola crosses y is 0, 8, and it's a sad face, so it's a max with a vertex of negative 1, 9. Here, a diver follows a path that's in the shape of a parabola. Suppose the diver's foot reaches 1 meter above the height of the diving board, and at that time, the diver's foot is also 1 meter horizontally from the edge of the diving board. What is the distance of the diver's foot from the diving board as the diver descends past the diving board? Well, you can see that when they do that, he goes up and then he comes back down. So it makes a parabola, and since a parabola is symmetrical, the distance is 2 meters. The bottom point of an upward curved parabola is called the minimum. And it is the max or the min point of a parabola is called the vertex.